What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Alright, so today, first of all, it's cold, it's rainy, it's crappy, wind's blowing, and it's just an awful day. But I want to do this on the 4Runner since I got the 4Runner, first of all, and that's because it's bothered me since day one. And what that is basically upgrading the interior dash lights and the switch lights or your button lights to LEDs. The car comes from the factory with an ugly orange color. Your gauges, everything in that car has this ugly orange light in there, and I didn't like it, never did. I dealt with it for a year, but finally it's time to go ahead and swap them out. Now you can do this on these cars, but you just gotta replace the little bulbs in there, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that real quick here. The only lights I'm gonna be upgrading is going to be the ones on the steering wheel switch, which I don't know if those are upgradable. But to do those, you gotta remove the airbag, which is not gonna happen today. And the ones on the gauges, which those you gotta solder, and there's a little bit more involvement in the gauge ones, so we're gonna leave those off today. We're just gonna be concentrating on all the buttons, mainly all the buttons, and the ones on your center console, pretty much your AC system, the AC controls. The reason I'm doing this also is because my radio that I have in there, which is the Alpine ILWX650, I believe, I forget the name of it. But the reason I do this is because on my radio, and the buttons or the touch buttons on there are a white color, and they're LED white, of course. And it would look awesome, of course, with LED white lights all through the dash. Now, the lights I'm gonna actually show you guys here that I'm gonna be putting on these cars can be found on a link in the description below. And then you could get them in white, blue, red, green, whatever color you want. So if you guys want any color, go ahead and pick them out. I'm doing white because it'll match the radio a lot better. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna show you guys what I'm gonna be using, what tools I'm gonna use, and the actual lights. And then we're gonna get started on this. And this is something that you don't need to bring the car into the garage. You could actually work on it right outside. You don't have to lift it for anything. And most of the stuff you could bring in to the house if it is cold like this to do the lights. The only ones you can't do inside the house are going to be the cup holder and the shifter knob ones, or the shifter ones that show you the park to drive and everything else. Those you gotta do in the car. But let me show you which lights I'm gonna be using and what tools we're gonna need for this job. So these are the lights that we're gonna be using. These are the WEDGE T5 bulbs, and these are only used for the shifter lights and the cup holders. The T3, which are the very small ones right here, these are gonna be used for all your buttons. And these are the T4.2, these are used for the AC controls. That is all the lights we'll need. Again, everything on here on this table is gonna be a link in the description below. Down here, we're gonna use a trim tool. On my car, I don't need this. I remove my dash plenty of times, so this trim tool for me, I won't be needing this. Some of you guys, if you've never removed your dash, you may need those, or your center console. You will need a small needle nose plier, if possible, or very small fingers especially for the light for your shifter. And then of course you're gonna need some sort of Phillips head and a 10mm socket, ratchet, or you can use a screwdriver. I'm gonna be using, of course, my power drivers here, so basically make the job a lot quicker for me. So let's go ahead and go to the car, and I'm gonna show you how we're gonna do this. Alright, so we're in the car here. So pretty much I'm going to show you guys exactly how everything comes off here and how easy these lights are actually are to install. They're not very difficult. The only one that gave me a pain in the butt was the shifter lights right here, and that's because the bulb is underneath everything. But again, I'll show you how to remove all this stuff and how to get... I'm not going to remove that bulb again because it did break on me. The actual connector, or the connector I should say, the actual socket broke, and it's not in there 100%. I had to kind of glue it back in, so I cannot remove that one again, but I'll give you an idea how that works. So these are the lights we're replacing. Everything here on the AC system or on the AC controls, we're gonna be replacing this, which is for the rear window, for the four-wheel drive selector. The cup holder's already been done, but I'm gonna show you how to take that bulb out, and we'll do these two lights here as well. The gauges are gonna stay for now. Those are pretty much gonna be set, and the ones on the steering wheel are gonna stay for now as well. When springtime comes around and it gets warmer and I don't need to use a truck on a daily basis, these will come out and I'll get those done for you. But let's go ahead and get started on everything else in here. Same thing with these. These will be coming out. I'll show you guys how to do these. I've already done them on the car, but I'm gonna show you guys how to do those as well. Pretty much all the switches are pretty much the same way. So we're gonna start off by removing the center console here.
So lift off your armrest. On mine, it just pops right out. Again, I've removed it plenty of times, so if you need to use your pry tool, you can, but it should just pop right up. You'll have 3 connectors. Some cars are different. They may have less or more. Just go ahead and unplug that whole thing just to be able to get this trim piece out of there. Once that is out, next thing you're gonna do is, of course, take everything off the cup holder, and we're gonna take this center lid out of here that pulls right out. So go ahead and just pop it in and pull straight out. And there is a 10mm screw in here. Go ahead and get that out of there. And then you should be able to get your fingers underneath your AC control units and pull forward on it and out. And there is one connector in there. Just go ahead and unplug that connector, and then you got the AC controls out. Once you have that out of the way, go ahead and pull up on the rest of the center console. It is just hooked on by clips. It should just come right out.
All right, so we're at this point here now. So now the only thing left, of course, to remove is this trim piece here, and that's to get to the bulb in here. And then the bulb for the cup holder in here, it's buried back here. You can actually reach, you can kind of feel it right in here. You can turn that counterclockwise. I'm trying to do this one hit. And set you guys down. And this is when this curved needle nose comes in handy for both of these jobs. Because, first of all, it's freezing outside, so my hands are cold. I can feel it right in here. And it's a simple switch in there. But you could just reach back behind it, turn it clockwise, and again, this makes the job a lot easier. And there is your bulb right there. Again, we'll turn the lights on. There you go. So I've already done that bulb, like I said. The ones that I've done were basically the ones all inside the shifter area here. For the shifter itself, to get this one out, it's actually pretty simple. Just kind of, first I will take this button out of there. But this just pulls right. Grab on the sides of it and pull upwards. Be careful you don't break anything. Again, I've pulled mine out plenty of times. So once you get this, your bulb is right inside of there. You see the bulb in there? Again, mine's already been replaced, so you got the nice LED light in there. But the problem I had was when I pulled it out, and again, it's just like the one right here, same kind of setup. It's reaching back here. I could not get my fingers on here in any kind of way to twist it out, and I ended up actually breaking it. So I glued it back on in its spot right there. It's all crooked. You can see it's all kind of messed up and crooked there, and that's probably never coming back out. If possible, what you could do is, and I should have thought of this when I was doing this, is take these same pliers, or you use the needle nose pliers you use to get the bulbs out with, and reach in there and pull the bulb out. Put some electrical tape maybe around it so it doesn't break, because if you do break the actual bulb in there, you're gonna have to get that out. At the end, I ended up using these pliers anyways to reach behind, twist it, and get it out. But after I broke the actual plastic tab that holds it in place, so it's glued in there. That is never coming out, so I'm not gonna be showing you guys how to take that out. But again, you can see in there that it is working. That's working. The cup holder one is working. So, and then these, of course, came out with the whole console. We got those out, and now we're gonna get out this trim here, because I have to get these out of here, and we're gonna get these out of here as well. So we'll keep going on the car and pull everything out, and we're gonna take everything inside of the house where it's warm and switch the bulbs in there and come back and reinstall everything. All right, so quick overview just to show you guys know what we're gonna be doing here. We're gonna be removing this whole center piece, like I said earlier. These 2 screws gotta come out. There is a screw in here as well. It has to come out on the bottom part of the dash for this to be able to pull out of there. As well as you gotta take 2 screws that are at the bottom of this panel. There's one on this side and one on this side. Now, again, if you guys watched my video when I installed the LED bar, I did remove those screws. I'll show you, you guys can see that. I'll put the link in the description for that video. You guys can check out those 2 screws that are at the bottom there. When you remove those 2 screws, this whole panel comes right out. And of course, this little trim piece here, we'll pull this out right now. Again, I've pulled these things out plenty of times, so these are like literally just like, I guess they know they're gonna come out every so often, so I'm pulling everything off with my fingers. You may need a pry tool, like I showed you earlier, that trim removal tool, to pull some of these out. Most of this stuff, when I unscrew these things, I will be able to pull everything right out with my hands. Won't need to use the trim tool. So, but again, every car is different. Be careful. You are dealing with plastic pieces here. If something breaks, something is not gonna go back on right. So just make sure you're careful when you're doing this. So all right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna remove the 2 screws at the bottom of the kick panel here, which will then be able to see the screw that is for this panel. And once you get that out, we'll get these two out, and this whole thing will come out, and then we'll hook the button for the hazard lights, the button for the rear window, and this here, you don't really have to take this out of the dash. You gotta unhook it, of course, the cable, you gotta unhook the connector, but you can actually do it right on there because you'll be able to see the light bulb right behind it. So, but anyway, when we get inside, I'll show you where all the lights are at, where all the bulbs are, and how to replace those bulbs. But let's get all this out of here now.
So now we're gonna remove these panels here. Let's go ahead and remove this kick panel first. There's two 10mm screws holding this thing. Once you remove both screws, one on the left side, one on the right, you're gonna grab the whole thing and pull forward and down, and that should bring everything straight down and should be able to expose the 10mm that's holding the center console trim in there. Take that screw out of there, take the two 10mm that are underneath the radio out, and you should be able to grab the whole thing with your hands and pull forward and up to get this whole thing out.
Alright, so now that we got that out, the only thing left is to remove these switches here. Now these are, and just like every other switch on this whole entire car, they're a pain to do with one hand. So I'm going to put the camera down and I'm going to do these two switches just to get these out. So I can pull these out of here and we'll be done. And then we're taking everything inside the house to do everything where it's nice and warm and my hands are not freezing and they're not red like they are now. So I'm going to put it down and I'll see you guys when we get inside the house. Alright, so I have my, of course, center bezel for the radio right here. And one thing I didn't mention, and I think I forgot to mention earlier, to get these panels out, they're pretty, or to get these buttons out there, it's actually pretty simple. You push them from the inside outwards, and that goes true to every one of these buttons, including the ones on the side of the dash. I don't have my center console here because I already did those lights and I'm not going to be, of course, redoing them. But it's pretty simple. You literally, one hand, they pop out. Of course, try to hold it with the other hand. But they pop right out just like that. And actually right there, you can see the bulb. That little gray thing right here is the bulb. That's where you're gonna need a small screwdriver. And same goes true with the other buttons right there. And excuse the noise in the background. That is just my heater fan here. But every one of these has, this one actually has two of them. One is going to be for the light more than likely. The other one's gonna be for the actual lettering. And of course, same holds for each one of these. They got the bulbs right in there and there. So on this one you have a few bulbs. I'm gonna show you guys right now. I'm gonna take one of them out and do one of the buttons, and it's pretty much the same thing on all of them. One thing you want to be careful is when you're putting them back in, that you put them in the right way. Of course, you want to go back to the car and test this every time you finish a button here, because you want to make sure if you put, let's just say, this button in here and it goes in the right way, because there's no, I mean, there's a positive and negative, but I mean, you can put the bulb inside either way and it'll fit in and it'll lock up. You just want to make sure that you're putting it in the right way. If not, it won't light up. So every time you do a button, go back to the car, plug it in, turn the lights on, see if it turns on. If it does, you're good to go. So, and again, it's simple to do. It's nothing crazy. You just go to the car, hook the button up to the switch, and see if it works before you reassemble the whole thing. It should take you total time to do everything about 30 minutes, not anything more than that. But again, just be careful when you're doing these things, you don't break them. So I'm gonna start, and again, this panel has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them.
To remove the bulbs, it's the same process throughout the whole install, either on the buttons or on the back of the control panel. You're gonna go ahead and take your flathead screwdriver, put it to the back of the bulbs, and turn it counterclockwise. This will loosen them up, and then you can take them off. You may have to give it a quick shake to get them completely out. Insert the new bulbs in and turn them clockwise. Now, the new bulbs do not lock in place sometimes, so when you reinstall the panel, you'll see that maybe a section is not lit up. All you gotta do is take the screwdriver and kind of turn them until you get proper contact with all the contact points between the actual unit and the bulbs, and I'll show you that in a second here.
Alright, so once you get all the lights put on, one, I guess you could say could be a good thing about this is that these lights, once that you install them, especially on the back of the controls for the AC, once you plug them in, you can turn everything on, see if they work. If they don't work, you can still kind of take the screwdriver while it's plugged in and slowly kind of turn them. Make sure, of course, they don't fall off when you're doing this. this will basically, until you find them to turn on pretty much. So I'm gonna plug them in right now. We're gonna see if they turn on, and then we'll plug in the lights on the sides here as well, see if they turn on as well. Again, you wanna be checking this before you reassemble the whole thing. Again, these are not factory lights, they are aftermarket. And with everything aftermarket, there's always something that it doesn't fit 100% correct. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook up the control unit, see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll kind of move the lights around until they turn on. All right, it is hooked on. Get power, got lights, and looks like every light is on except for this one that says passenger temp. And of course, that's the center one here. So we're gonna go ahead back here. But what you wanna do is kind of try to find, and there it goes. And now it turns on. You see, and same thing with this one over here. The high is not working all the way, but you saw how it kind of just went in there and kind of just turned it until it found its spot, and now it turns on. So let's see, make sure to turn it off, back on, off, back on, and now they work. The one with the high does turn on. It just doesn't seem like it's bright enough. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe at night it'll look different. And again, if they're turning on, I wouldn't mess around with them too much. Again, they don't fit 100% in there, and I noticed that when they put them in, they kind of gave me a little bit of a fight. Some of them going in, some of them just trying to stay in and stuff. So they're still loose inside. You can still tweak them, but they're not gonna fall off. I kind of hit the panel before I brought it back to the car. I kind of shook it and see if they didn't fall off, which they didn't. So that's a good thing. But right now, they are turning on. Now, I did run out of bulbs, which I will be ordering more bulbs for these two bottom ones here. Each baggie comes with 10. This one carries 9 total. The top ones up here, the 2 for the screen, are your bigger bulbs. And then, of course, you have a small one here. Pretty much all the ones that go on the switches go on these ones as well. So basically, you have a bunch of switches, and I will put at the bottom of the description, I'll tell you exactly how many lights for each item you need to get it all properly done here. But I'm gonna order another baggie of bulbs, and again, they're not that expensive, just to get these 2 done here. All right, so the next light I'm gonna plug in, I'm gonna try plugging in the window light over here, which is this connector here. So I'm gonna plug this in. The lights are off right now, so okay, and we'll see. It's kind of hard to see when I turn it on because it's still daylight outside, but we'll turn them on, and it does light up. You guys can see it, it's lit up. So that's working. All right, so now pretty much this is done. This light lights up, so I'm gonna put everything back together. The one for the 4-wheel drive switch, that was pretty easy. That installs, and that's actually one of the bigger lights, like the one on the display up here. So you're gonna need one of those. So basically, you're gonna use 3 of the big lights, 2 for the display, 1 for the actual 4-wheel drive light. That's what it's gonna go on. And then everything else is pretty much the tiny little bulbs on there. And again, I will have a link in the description at the bottom and give you how many lights for each one you'll need, for each control, for each panel. And that way, it'll be easier for you guys to know exactly when you're doing this job than when I did it right now. So let's go ahead and put everything back together, and then we'll look at what it looks like at the end. All right, everyone, so there you have it. The car is completed for now. The only thing I got left to do are the gauges, and that'll be getting done in the springtime when the car can sit out for about a week without me using it. But for now, the HVAC unit lights are on. All the switches, we've replaced the lights on that to LEDs. The cup holders and this gear shift selector has also been switched to LEDs. So if you guys did enjoy the video and did like the content, go ahead and hit that like button at the bottom. Hit the subscribe because I got more videos coming up on the 4Runner as well as other cars that I own. And I'll see you guys on my next video. Take care. Peace.